Hey guys, it's Patrick back with my second video for our channel. Today I would like to talk about a couple of stories from restaurants that I worked at. I think I'll save hotel stories for a little bit later, but here's some stories from restaurants that I've worked at over the past several years. Now, because these stories involve restaurants, most of them involve myself or other people drinking copious amounts of alcohol and making bad decisions. So, in the spirit of that, I've been drinking. We'll see where this goes. This is like my third drink. It's about 5 p.m., but it's my day off, so fuck it. I don't remember what all was in here, in all honesty. I know it had some Sunny D and Blue Curacao, and I think there was a little bit of something else in there. I can't remember. Anyway, so my first story is going to be about a place I worked that no longer exists. Because this place no longer exists, I don't feel bad about naming this one. It was a place called Fork in the City. And the thing about Fork in the City is that I worked here when I was underage, and thus I was the only person who didn't drink with everybody after work. Now, because I didn't drink with them, I was nobody's favorite. Even the other underage guy who worked there, the dishwasher, whose name I have completely forgotten and wouldn't share anyway just to keep, personal stuff personal. They all drank after work, so they were all best buddies. I did not, so I always got the lovely jobs, like when the grease trap broke and I had to clean up the entire mess by myself, despite the fact that any other place I've worked that was a 2 or even 3-person job, and it took my entire shift. But I'm going off on a tangent. Let me tell you some stories about the drunken antics that they got up to. And let me preface this with, in both of these occasions, because the general manager of the restaurant was really good friends with all of the other staff and he was one of their drinking buddies, they didn't really get in any trouble for this. They got, in both cases, they got a week of suspension, but he still let them come in and he still paid them, but I think they only worked like limited hours for that week. I don't remember how it worked. It was a weird thing. They basically didn't get in any trouble, and then they were back after a week at full pay and full hours, like nothing had happened. So the first one, I was there for this one. I was not there for the second, but I heard about it and I saw the aftermath. So the first one, we were all sitting in the kitchen, or we were all working in the kitchen, and one of the servers had been drinking on his break, and so he comes back drunk, and he comes into the kitchen, and he's just joking around, and he makes a comment when one of the other cooks punches him in the arm, and he says something along the lines of, "I feel no pain." Well, the month before, or 2 months before, I can't remember exactly how long it had been, they had the whole group of them had gotten together at the park and done a kickball game with like significant others and some other friends and stuff, and he'd ended up fucking up his knee. So he comes into the kitchen after a little while after that, and the other cooks, I didn't know this story, or rather, I didn't think that they were going to do anything, so I didn't join in. In all honesty, probably would have if I'd seen it coming. Anyway, so one of the other cooks grabs his knee and starts going, "Ah! Ah!" making fun of him for how he acted when he got hurt. So the server turns, screams at us in the kitchen, cursing up a storm, and forgetting that at this restaurant, the kitchen was open to the dining room. They could see us. They could hear us. And it was open mic night, which meant we were full of middle school kids whose parents had brought them to show off how good they could sing. Let's just say the parents weren't happy. Um, so yeah, that was the first story from Fork in the City. My second story from Fork in the City is from a couple months later. Um, and I was out back when this started, so I didn't see the actual incident, but I saw the aftermath. Um, so it was a really busy night. Um, and the bar manager had been drinking, sharing shots with customers because most of the guys at the bar were his buddies. And they were buying him drinks, and he was making them their drinks and all this other stuff. But basically, he was getting a whole bunch of free drinks, and he was drinking up a storm. So there was this one woman there who was getting harassed by another guy, and so the bartender tells the dude to leave her alone, rightly so. And the guy does not take kindly to that. So the drunk guy who was harassing the girl throws a punch at our bartending manager. Our bartending manager manages to doesn't even really have to move, but the guy misses, and then throws his own punch. And in one punch, broke the dude's jaw and knocked him out on the floor. So I did not witness that part. I came in while everybody's screaming, and they had to take the guy. They had to call an ambulance for the guy to go to the hospital. And again, as I preface both of these stories, these guys got 1 week suspension, which again wasn't really a full suspension. So there were other incidents. Those were the two most extreme, but stuff like that happened all the time. Because something I learned in my almost 10 years in the food service industry is if there is alcohol on the premise, at the very least, your cooks have probably been drinking. Which leads me, this leads me into my next story. Now, the place that this story takes place in is still in business, has been for a very long time, probably will be for a very long time. And I'm not going to mention any names because I don't want anybody to get in trouble. And I also feel a little bit iffy about sharing this story on the internet because I'm worried it might get me in trouble, even though this was several years ago. But this one takes place at a resort that I worked at the summer after my junior year of college. Um, I was working there for my internship for my classes where I had to like write papers on things that I learned and stuff like that. It was an interesting summer. But this story takes place over the entire summer basically because it was an ongoing thing. Um, as I said, if a place that you are at uh, offers alcohol, it's highly likely that your cooks at a minimum have been drinking. So, with that, let me get into my story. The basic gist of everything that happened that summer was that, well, the bartenders at the location that I worked on the property really liked us cooks. We gave them snacks and things, and so they gave us drinks. So we drank them on the clock. And one thing I've learned is that if you get good enough at cooking, drinking doesn't really affect your ability to cook, but it does affect your decision-making skills while doing so. So the food always turned out just fine. The choices we made towards making the food, not always the case. For example, one time we got absolutely trashed and decided that it was a great idea to do a speed cup chopping competition to see who could cut their half of the big thing of fruit salad we were making first, which meant half of a watermelon, a cantaloupe, a honeydew, a pineapple, um, and a pound bag of grapes. Everything had to be deskinned, cored if it was something that needed to be cored, seeds out from the watermelon. Um, the grapes had to be pulled off. Each individual grape had to be pulled off of the stems and into our big storage container as fast as possible while drunk with sharp knives. You're probably expecting this story to end badly. Surprisingly, it did not. I did lose by about 5 or 6 seconds, um, but the story itself, or rather the competition itself, we did not end up injuring ourselves that day. Um, Honestly, most of the injuries that happened because of the drinking were people being stupid about not using oven mitts in the oven or forgetting that things were hot on the stovetop and grabbing them because they were like not thinking straight. Um, However, another one that we had was, so the location that I worked at was the restaurant at the pool at this resort, and so one of our cooks, one of the other cooks, had been drinking like we all had, and we sent him to go find one of the servers out and about around the pool, because people could order their food through the servers who would just wander around their section of the pool, and then they take it out to them in their lounge chairs and stuff like that, and they could eat their food, and then they could go swimming. So our cook goes out to find this specific server, and ends up tripping over a tripping over something. I don't remember what it was, but he was up at the top of the water slide and falling onto the water slide and sliding all the way down the water slide into the pool. Um, so somebody caught it on camera. I don't know who had the footage. I doubt it's still around. But let's just say we made fun of him for a while. So what I've found in my 9 or so years in the food service industry before I moved to hotels is the fancier the restaurant, the more access to alcohol the people working in the restaurant have, the more likely it is that they are drinking in the back. Um, Again, that shouldn't turn you away from eating at those places because most of those guys know exactly what they're doing, even when drunk. But it's something to think about. Um, So those are my stories from food service. I have a lot more from like when I was working about a year. I did a year and a half at a fast food place. I've got some from the hotel. Or I could go on a completely different topic next week. I'll let you guys let me know. Either comment down below in the doobly doo or message me on our messenger group. But if you've got anything you want me to talk about, let me know.